And we will go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. I'm Natalie Brake with Early Learning Indiana, and I'm glad to have you joining us today for our Q&A. If you are newer to the Early Learning Exchange, welcome. This space gathers together community-based organizations, early learning leaders, and other system stakeholders to discuss, ideate, and address key issues and opportunities for early learning. Using both informal, organic conversations and structured exchanges of best practices and innovations, such as the ones that we're going to be sharing and hearing about today on our Q&A. We are able to learn from one another and spark ideas about what we can do in our own communities that can make progress in fostering learning for young children. Before we get started, I'd like to make an ask of all of you to continue using the exchange to make those connections and share those ideas. Take time to comment on somebody's post, start your own post, sharing a success, asking a question, really reaching out there to the wealth of expertise and experience that's just on the other side of that keyboard. Start a conversation, tag somebody in. Literally, you can tag people into your conversations and ask them, or tag in a friend who you think could weigh in on something that's going through there. Activate your network. The idea is to exchange ideas and boost learning. That's what the Early Learning Exchange is here for, and it's here for you to use. Now for our Q&A, our goal for our Q&A sessions is to give you a behind the curtain look at a specific organization, individual, or program that is out there doing this work, fostering learning opportunities for young children. Our guests on our Q&As will typically share about their work, and then we'll open the floor to you for questions. If you think of questions during their presentation, you can always go ahead and put them in the chat so that they're ready when we shift into our discussion. If you were able to join us at our Making the Most of the Early Years event earlier this year, you may recall that we invited a handful of organizations to share about their work and the innovative ways they are making the most of the early years. We promised to host Q&A opportunities with these spotlights to give you some more time to ask your questions and to dive into their work more comprehensively. We will have more Q&A sessions coming soon with different organizations, both from these spotlights and other organizations with inspiring work benefiting young children. For today, though, I'd like to welcome our guest, Mary Jane Eisenhauer from First Things First Porter County. First Things First operates as a field catalyst, designed to drive systemic change in Porter County through the work of their partners' collective impact. They serve as a backbone organization, bringing their community together around a common agenda, shared metrics, mutually reinforcing activities, and continuous communication, all towards the goal of creating a rich system of care, support, and services so that every Porter County baby is prepared for a strong start in life. Big, lofty goals, big, lofty work. Welcome, Mary Jane, and I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us a little bit more.
Thanks so much, Natalie, and really thank you everybody for taking time out of your morning to join us. I also want to call out Hadassah, my wonderful accomplice at First Things First Porter County. This is really her brainchild and the work that she's helped us to do to bring folks together. But I'm thrilled to share with you one of the ways in which we are addressing those. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and talk. Let's see, my sharing is not turned on, Natalie, so I'm sending you that request. Let's see here. Yes. All right. So hopefully you can all take a look at what we've got going on here. So I want to talk to you today about camp collaboration. This is one of the ways in which we gather for impact in Porter County. Natalie gave us just exactly what we're doing. It is indeed lofty, but we take it one baby step at a time, one meeting at a time, one conversation at a time. So today I want to tell you just a little bit about First Things First Porter County, and then how we are trying to meet those lofty goals of strengthening our prenatal to age 3 ecosystem. And one way that we do that is through something called camp collaboration. And that really is a way for us to strengthen the ecosystem by creating those relationships, nurturing the partnerships, and really fostering a collective sense. So we often ask everybody to take off their organizational hat and come together for the good of every single baby in our county. We'll have time at the end for questions. So please, as you're thinking of them, add those to the chat, and I'm excited to share with you the work that we've been doing. As Natalie mentioned, we're prioritizing brain development, language, and early relational health across our entire county. We have about 1,600 babies born every year, which we determined to be about 5 babies every day. So we're wrapping our arms around those babies and their families. We completed a pretty comprehensive strategic a visioning process that ended up with a strategic plan with these 3 priorities. So as we're going through the conversation today to talk about camp collaboration, I just want to ask you to help us return to these priorities, which are really about elevating, expanding this collaborative solution around our prenatal to 3 ecosystem. And hopefully you'll see some examples of how we are reaching out to all corners of our county, not just in terms of population, but also in terms of service delivery, also in terms of just those unlikely suspects that we know can walk alongside us and support us in some really different kinds of ways. We also want to empower our partners. First Things First does not provide direct service. We really serve as that backbone organization, convening and pulling groups together, just keeping an eye on that, like Natalie said, that lofty goal. So how do we hand off that experience? How do we hand off and really guide our organizations, our partners to do that work? I am often reminded of Maria Montessori, who said, you're successful when the children act as if you're no longer there. And truly, we would like to be in the background and having our ecosystem act as if we are no longer there, while we continue to guide and nurture and create space and time for conversation, for innovation, and of course, for collaboration. And then finally, our other strategic priority is to raise awareness of this very critical stage in prenatal to 3. We had Dr. Jenner here in Porter County just 2 days ago, and in front of 300 people, she said, learning begins at birth. And it's those kinds of things that we want to remind our community, that learning really does begin at birth. And we're hoping for a culture shift that really does start to prioritize brain development, language, and early relational health. So as Natalie mentioned, she called out some of the, some of the ways in which we do this. It's through the collective impact framework. I won't go through all of these things, but essentially we're trying to develop a common agenda with some shared language. If you work in the early intervention sector, you may be talking about one thing, and then folks who are maybe working in pediatric healthcare are talking about the exact same thing. They're just using different words to describe it. And so coming together to have that shared language through mutually reinforcing activities. So that idea that we have everybody's working in their own lane, as it were, but we're all heading in the same direction, and that we're not bumping into one another. We're not kind of running across the lanes and trying to run into each other, but really, how are we all heading in the same direction? And so thinking about ways as a backbone that we can enhance and really foster that sense through continuous communication. And that's, again, Hadassah's work with our milestone report, which is our newsletter, our blog, and then also through our social media. Just, again, socializing and normalizing conversations about babies, toddlers, and their families. We continue to work on building out a shared metrics system, and that's, I think, probably been our greatest challenge, is really understanding the data that we need that will really demonstrate impact. Again, serving as this backbone organization to convene, to connect, to collaborate, to communicate, really bringing all those things together, serving in a leadership role across the county. And we're fortunate to be affiliated with our community foundation, which helps us to do that as well. So here we are. And when we started just 4 years ago, we knew that we needed to bring together all of those invested, interested, and impacted organizations and individuals to do the work, those who are actually on the front lines, serving families and children every day, but also some unlikely suspects. So we called that our Early Learning Collaborative. Again, that idea of shared language was really critical. And we started by just bringing groups of people together, and we decided on a cadence of every quarter. We'd come together, and we usually get between 60 and 65 people at the Community Foundation for a meeting. So I'm going to ask you, what do you notice here in this image? Feel free to take yourself off mute, just or put in the chat language that you see. What do you notice?
I see engagement between people.
Okay, so there's some people talking to one another. We've all been in meetings like this, right? Like everybody's got a table, there may be some name tags. They look perfectly happy. There's some smiling faces. Indiana, yes, our wonderful Carla Gadsden's part of our front and center, and she's always got a smile on her face. She's always got great ideas. In this, we have, the CEO of our mental health, a paper and pencil, all of these wonderful things ready to go. But you can imagine bringing people together in this way, even quarter after quarter after quarter. And this was really just even into our first year. And we looked at each other and we said, there's got to be a better way. How do we get out of this? How do we get away from the tables and chairs and build community? How do we get people up and moving around and talking to one another in a different kind of a way? So we decided to return to what we know. As early educators, we know that active engagement is just as important for our youngest learners as it is for our adult learners. We also knew that it needed to make sense. We also know that in this early learning collaborative, we are all experts. We're all experts in our own work. We're all experts in our neighborhoods. We're experts for the families that we serve, for our own families. And we really wanted to provide that experience of sharing expertise. And we knew that it wouldn't happen if we continued to sit at tables and chairs. So a theme always helps. So this is where we came up with our camp collaboration. And that looks like, oh shoot, hold on here. Ta-da. There we go. Camp collaboration. This was really just an experiment. Like, let's see what happens if we bring our partners together and we give them a challenge and we say, hey, what if we all get together and we play like we're at camp and we share an experience, we gather together. And so in the summer of 2022, we did just that. And the purpose of this event is to foster collaboration and encourage partnerships among Porter County organizations, those providers and programs serving the prenatal to 3 children and their families. Camp Collaboration provides opportunities for our early learning collaborative members to learn more about existing services and build relationships. First things first, Porter County wants to strengthen the systems in Porter County for healthy beginnings, family support, and early learning. So that very first summer we came together and we went all out. With the wonderful support of my colleagues, we had a campfire. Not really, we never lit it on fire. That came later. But we really brought people together around this idea. And man, you'll see in these photos, I hope you'll see that really it was so much fun to have people together, dressed up, putting their best foot forward. It was a little bit of like, what did we do? What did I do on my summer vacation? This was held in August of 22. And we know that from our strategic visioning process, which included interviews with 60 plus of our partners and community members, our advisory board, the board of directors at the foundation, that camp collaboration in just a short amount of time, and I'm quoting here from the interviews, has been a great success bringing together organizations and fostering partnerships. It is a critical effort that nurtures collaboration. One of our partners described it as a networking event for providers in the area. Going to that event helped me see how many resources are out there in the community. It was a really fun event. And then another partner said in this interview, everyone was in silos. And these were not, I didn't conduct the interviews. We had an outside evaluator. So these were hopefully honest assessments. But everyone was in silos before and afraid to talk to each other as they might be competing for the same funds. Camp collaboration has helped everyone grow the solutions and point families to others who can help them. So, what do you notice here?
No more tables.
The tables are gone. We have soft seating. We moved the first event we held in a bigger venue, but then we realized we wanted to bring it back to the community foundation. So a little bit cozier, more intimate space, but also allowed us to have, soft seating. Our fake campfire is still there. This was the year that actually one of our partners decided to set up a s'mores table, and we were actually cooking s'mores inside the community foundation, which I can imagine was probably against a lot of rules, but it was a lot of fun. So again, you see people still smiling, but it was just a completely different experience, I think. You can kind of see people are dressed up a little bit in their camp attire, but it was our partners coming together for this day. After every camp collaboration, we have asked our participants, and it's only participants, I call them our friends and family. So this is not open to the public. To participate, you do have to have a campsite or a booth, just as you might at a health fair or a resource fair or something like that. But this is truly an internal event. We asked them for 5 words to describe their experience. And this is a word cloud from 2023 that actually looks almost exactly similar to the word cloud from 22 and 25. So you'll notice some words on here: informative, fun, and community always seem to be the biggest words, but there's some other ones in here that really stand out to me. And I wonder if any of you notice any of those smaller words that jump out at you or make you wonder a little bit more.
I would say jumping out to me are both enlightening and energetic. And I think the energetic is just the aspect of, I was thinking like with the comparison between the pictures, you set a different stage to talk about the work. And literally setting that stage, I don't describe a lot of community meetings where we're sitting around a table discussing as energetic.
It's true.
Don't.
Yeah, that was really our goal: exciting, inclusive, decorative. I mean, who's talking about a decorative meeting? Not many meetings I go to are decorative. So that's what we're talking about: connection and partners. Absolutely. So this was from our very first year. Like I said, we felt like we needed to go all out that year to really make a statement. So we held this at our county expo center, and just you can kind of see through the doorway there the work that came together that first year. This is our itinerary from last year, and it kind of describes the day. It is fast and furious. People are invited to come in and get set up as early as 8:30, and then we go through the day. And what we notice is that even in the setting up of the experience, people are starting to talk. People are starting to, hey, what's on your table? And we one year we had a trumpeter here to do morning reveille outside by our flagpole. Again, as in the early childhood field, we can do those kinds of things, and people understand and really tend to enjoy that. I feel like as we've gotten further down the pathway with this, that level of decoration and performance and things like that, we don't need that as much, because that kind of forced family fun has happened, and now people are coming together, I think, authentically. So we have a closing ceremony where we give out, our Camper of the Day award, which is really a participation award. We just draw a name from a hat. The first year it was just a certificate. We also give out a Spirit Award. That's the most enthusiastic, most decorated campsite. And then in the last 2 years, we've been able to present these collaboration challenge grants. And that's a different aspect that I won't be talking too much about today, but happy to connect with others. This is really thanks to the funding we receive from the Early Years Initiative and the support we have through our affiliation with the Community Foundation. This just gives you a sense of the 28 different organizations that were involved, and it kind of gives you a sense of how we put our space together. You can imagine we have a beautiful space here in Porter County, but it's very meeting-ish, and they've allowed us to bring in tents and canoes and all kinds of crazy things outside. We've had big fun games, our craft tent. So you'll see pictures like that. And again, happy to share any of this with you, but just I want you to see a sense of really how we've tried to disrupt that conventional space around meetings and collaborating and convening. So this, I'm hoping to give you just a sense of the different kinds of groups that have come in. We have been able to establish Help Me Grow, that refer, connect, single point of entry into our system here in Porter County. So these are our two friends from Help Me Grow Porter County. You'll notice that we've also adopted the Talking is Teaching campaign. And that was really the focus of our very first camp collaboration, was to roll out Talking is Teaching. So you'll see a lot of that our partners have also adopted as trusted messengers. So here we are. We've also brought in our health department. They've been a critical partner in supporting all the things that they do, especially with our fetal infant mortality review and now the action team, to promote that information. So even though this might be information that they would share with families, we've discovered that our partners who may be in a different part of the ecosystem are not aware of the resources that are available to help families understand the importance of safe sleep. So that's been an eye-opener as they've come together. Oh, I had no idea that, I could call the health department and they have these sleep stacks for families. So that's our health department. From our social services connections, we have, the YMCAs. We have 3 YMCAs in Porter County. So this is from our Portage YMCA, and you see behind her, somebody kind of looking around at somebody else's table, and it's just a lot of movement. That energy comes through. Our YMCAs are critical in bringing in pregnant people and new moms to provide services, to provide that safe space for connection. This is our Parks Department. And it was really our Parks Department that was one of the reasons why we thought provides a really good example, I think, of the collaboration that comes from this experience of camp collaboration. They were they run a program for little ones at the parks, and Katie here, who runs those programs, came to me one time and said, we're really concerned. We're seeing some really extreme behaviors, and we need to develop a policy for expelling. We want to expel children from the program. So, and I thought, oh no, we can't do that. So let's get together and talk about that. So we were able to share some webinars, but also some research with the Parks Department about the importance of understanding what's appropriate expectations. We connected her with one of our local organizations for some training and technical assistance. And they have now developed a wonderful partnership where they go back and forth and can really rely on one another for those types of resources, for that training, for that support for their educators and their families. They now have sources of referral. So we really count that as a wonderful success story, and are excited to see kind of what comes from the Parks Department as they start to think about the 0 to 3 ecosystem. Coffee always helps. So we want to really honor our providers, our practitioners who work so hard every single day on behalf of families and children. And we also know that just because you're not sitting at a table across from somebody, that conversations don't happen. So even in the coffee line, waiting for, we treat our practitioners to coffee, which they're always amazed and so grateful that they don't have to pay for it. And we're like, yes, please go out, get your lavender iced tea, get your special s'mores cold brew. Again, the theme helps. And, in line, people are talking about what they're doing, what their questions might be, who they might connect with. And so that's been a wonderful tradition. And the thing about traditions is once they get started, they really take on a life of their own, which again fosters that community, fosters those positive experiences that we want to see. We have a craft table at our camp. It's not as widely used as we thought it might be, but last year we made friendship bracelets. We have buttons that people can make. Just another opportunity to sit down and chat. You probably all recognize Kristen Lobshire from Lakeshore, who's just been a wonderful partner with Camp Collaboration, always comes up and sets up a big display. And at the end, she's been very generous in raffling those materials off. So some people walk away with different parts of that. So, sitting under the craft table and talking over those, sometimes just having that shared experience, that opportunity to just have a casual conversation, we can provide time and space for that. At the end, Hadassah put together this beautiful collage last year where we asked our participants to write a letter home, just like you would from camp. And this is one of the letters that got written about, my favorite part of Camp Collaboration was these friendly faces. It's nice to know that there's a helping hand. And that we love that. And we hold that up. We can tell you the number of people who showed up. We can tell you the number of partners that attended, close to 100 that we've had every year. We can tell you, how much it costs to do something like this. But I think the qualitative data that we're able to collect through experiences like this really shine a light on what is important to our community, and that is the connection. It's the connection among the partners, that recognition of the work that they do every single day. And I will say in our one of our evaluations, with the external evaluator, somebody's comment was that Camp Collaboration brings people together in a new way that is not just a meeting. So that makes me feel like we've really accomplished what we set out to do. And we're getting ready for our 4th annual Camp Collaboration in August of this year. So let's discuss. I'm going to stop sharing, and hopefully you'll have some questions or some comments. I see Marianne Frigo's on here from Jacob's Ladder, and Hadassah, who can also help to answer questions or may have something to add to this. All right.
My input will be last year was my first time attending camp. I started with First Things First in the fall of 2023. So last year was my first time seeing camp, and it had a lot of hype, and it definitely lived up to the hype. And I'm really excited about this year. And we're also, as Mary Jane said, we have some traditions that kind of are self-sustaining that people look forward to, that really get folks. Sorry, my son is talking in the back, if you can hear. Hey, buddy. I'm going to talk now. And so, but with that, we also don't want the event to become so expectant that it becomes stale. And so this year we're looking at some new ways that we can restructure some of our components of the day to keep folks really engaged by bringing some new opportunities and also introducing some new initiatives and ideas that we hope to be rolling out the next year. So it's a really exciting time for us to be planning camp this year as well.
I'm actually going to tag in there before I ask Sarah's question that's in the chat, because my question is related to something you said. I was actually just thinking about turnover within organizations or agencies that do this kind of work, the types of organizations that would be present at a camp collaboration, and wondering how you guys, thinking that this kind of an engagement could be so useful for somebody who's stepping into a role in an organization where the organization might be established, but they are not established within their own connections and understanding, and that learning curve you have to do as a new individual at the organization, how you guys kind of balance that for the new individuals coming in and then those who have maybe been for a few years. Because I could see benefits for both of those types of individuals.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in and say to me, it's a little bit like teaching in a multi-age classroom, right? So you have these experts and the apprentices. And so, there's a lot of peer learning that goes on. It's a lot of mentorship and like, hey, come on along. Or oftentimes we're introduced to new organizations or new individuals in organizations by people who come to Camp Collaboration and saying, hey, you should connect with these people. And so Hadassah will take a phone call maybe with them and describe a little bit about what it is. The pictures really help to show like, this is the energy. This is the, we no longer used the first year, just because we really wanted all in buy-in. It really was like everybody, we actually even gave out, I believe, a small award to the best campsite just to incentivize that level of participation. We recognize that is not sustainable for everybody. So that's no longer a requirement, but I think people just really get a kick out of doing that. But to your question, Natalie, yes, we do know that there's kind of this orientation part that goes along with it. And that's just the responsibility, I believe, of the Early Learning Collaborative. And so I think our partners have all taken on that role of embracing new members to the field. And thanks, Hadassah is going to share, because we do ask that question. So if I could jump right to Sarah's question, she's asking if there are connections made during Camp Collaboration. And absolutely, we've asked every year, how many new connections have you made? What's been the follow-up? What has resulted from that? So we're hoping to find a way to track that that makes sense, because that's our goal, is to strengthen the ecosystem.
Yeah, I was just at a community event yesterday for something ABA related, and the health department was there. And so, of course, we get talking. And I can tell you, it's through these regular touches with this group that collaboration has become so powerful for all of us. So during those meetings, I have this special little area that I'm focused on in prevention of 0 to 3-year-old milestones, right? But because I'm talking to these other people, I can see, oh, here's where I dovetail with WIC, here's where I dovetail with nurse family partners. And now we have created opportunities with Jacob's Ladder, where we're dovetailing with 5 and 6 other organizations that have other goals, but we're supporting each other, and we're getting further because we're doing it together. So it's been very cool.
Thanks, Marianne. Marianne's been a big supporter. One year she brought her big Connect 4 game, and that was a lot of fun.
Okay, I do have some stats from last year to answer Sarah's question. So one of the questions that we ask in our exit survey is how many connections did you make at the event? And it's a drop-down menu of different ranges of connections. So last year we had 21 responses for the survey, and the most common connections were 4 to 5 or 6 to 8. So that was about 30%. So it's pretty equally distributed across the board, but everybody made at least one new connection, but most of them in the 4 to 5 or the 6 to 8 new connections at camp that year. So that's a pretty exciting. And also we ask, do you know more about what is offered to promote healthy beginnings, supporting families and early relational health for pregnant women, infants, and toddlers in Porter County? And it's on a Likert scale of 1 to 4, and everybody except for 1 responded 3 or 4. So it's a very impactful event. We know that as well.
And we also know, that as we do this more often, that number of new connections starts to decrease. That very first year, it was, over 70% made between 8 and 10 new connections. So those are no longer new connections, but they're, so that number that high number is lowering. But what is the quality of those connections? What's actually happening in those connections? Those are the things that we're really interested in and wanting to support through our work as a convener. So this year, we've actually been very targeted, saying to our organizations, think about the people in your organization that would benefit. Who are the frontline providers, practitioners that would benefit from knowing about all these different resources? So is there a new somebody new in your office or somebody who's been there for a while who would benefit from learning about the resources. So also trying to like Hadassah said, not make it stale.
Another thing is we're finding, and Mary Jane, I think your anecdotes from our strategic visioning were really relevant to us, that some of this just isn't quantitative data. And as our partners continue to make these new connections, there's a lot happening that we don't necessarily know about, which Mary Jane talked about in the beginning. One of our goals is these shared metrics, which is something that we have a hard time capturing. And I think this is one of those evidences of that, where, there could be a lot of new connections and collaborations happening that might not necessarily get back to us for a way for us to document them. And Mary Jane touched on it. We're not talking about it now, but our collaboration challenge grants are a really good example of folks working together on new initiatives also. And just the number of increasing grant proposals every year, I think, is also an evidence of the increased collaboration that we have between our partners that wasn't happening before. I'm reading Sarah's in the chat right now, and that you might meet somebody right away, but then it doesn't follow up or go anywhere. And so it's really something we are keeping an eye on. And
I think that's another point to make, is because we know each other personally, and a lot of us are at the leadership level in each of our organizations. When some urgent thing comes up, most of us are like, I know a guy, right? We know the guy to go over there and figure out how to get bumped into their system. And that's made a big difference for a lot of our customers.
So a first step is not letting perfect get in the way of doing. And so just taking a step, even gathering 3 or 4 of your partners and saying, let's disrupt the meeting, what the conventional meetings look like. Let's do something a little bit different. It could be a carry, and let's all bring in, cookies and share cookies together and talk about, our different services, and think about how we can collaborate, how we can share referrals. I think really we've tried to keep up this innovative, risk-taking, adventurous spirit, and that has allowed us to try some things and be okay with grand failure. We never anticipated that Camp Collaboration would become an annual event, but given the feedback that we've gotten especially from the external evaluation, we were all surprised at how important that has become. And we also thought, well, let's just try this once, everybody will get to know each other, and then we can move on to the real work. And I think I'm starting to realize the real work is what happens at Camp Collaboration. When people are talking, when they're making those connections, as Marianne said, then the guy or the gal to pick up the phone, call, and talk about the referral. So often people have asked for a directory. Everybody wants a directory. Everybody wants a list of things. And that we just don't have the capacity to, maybe we could create it, but to maintain that is so impossibly difficult. And so by gathering once a year, it's almost like the responsibility is like in our vision, to empower partners to do this kind of work. So we're empowering them to connect. That responsibility of connecting and maintaining the connections, nurturing the connections, seeking out new partners is really on the agencies, the organizations, the individuals, and that they have an opportunity every year to kind of update their file. Okay, this person has moved from the health department to WIC. This person has moved, or they've got a new title, or there's a new responsibility, or this program just received extra funding for X, Y, and Z. Now we can do that. And we've also seen, some aha moments where organizations have come into Camp Collaboration and said, oh my gosh, we're doing exactly the same thing that you're doing. How can we really use our resources more efficiently and avoid some duplication of services here? So I think that's also been really helpful, to think about new ways to distribute the resources. Kathleen, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you. I think I need to keep the "don't let the perfect stop you" as a life motto as well as work motto going forward.
Yeah. That's a good one. Done is better than perfect. The geographic range. So it could work regionally. I think probably the larger it gets, um, the focus might be a little bit different. It could certainly work at the town level. We have it at a county level. So across Porter County, where we have about 175,000 residents, about 1,600 babies born every day. Like I said before, we have about 7,000 children under the age of 4. Who are all in all different kinds of spaces during that time. We're building out our birth to school programming and alliance. We also have wonderful early intervention services like Mary Ann's at Jacob's Ladder, library and things like that. So at the county level, it's been I think, very manageable because we have county systems that are in place. It's also a little arbitrary because our county lines, many people that live in Porter County work in the adjacent counties. Many people who live in adjacent counties work in Porter County. So there's, all the way across Northwest Indiana, the 7 counties, there's a lot of movement back and forth. And so we're always mindful of how we message that, but how we also bring people into the fold and try to be very clear about what we can provide as first things first, because right now we are bound to Porter County. But I think that also it gives us the space to be a little adventurous, to be focused, to really think about the 5 babies born every day. I want to open the invitation up to everybody. August 19th. This is a special invitation because we really don't invite others outside of the family and friends. But since you've heard about this and if you have an interest, please join us on the 19th if you'd like to come up and try it firsthand. You can wear your camp gear, but you don't have to. You can reach out to Hadassah. Her email's in the chat, and let her know that you're interested in coming as a participant observer to kind of see how this goes. And it's messy, it's a little chaotic, but I think that's the fun of it. And we heard the first year, this is an important story that I wanted to share, that idea of coming up with the camp materials. And I hope we were clear in saying, please don't go out and buy a new tent or a new outfit or a camp whatever it is. Don't do anything new. And one of our partner organizations really took that to heart, and they had an internal, I don't even know if it was a formal challenge, but in preparing for the event, they kind of crowdsourced all of the things that everybody had at home to create this beautiful campsite space. And the person said to me later, we came into this hoping to collaborate with all the other external organizations. But what really happened this year for us was the internal collaboration. All of us having to work together to create this space to come up with what we wanted to present our organization to be. And I thought that was really powerful and certainly an unanticipated consequence or outcome of that. So Katie, I know you had a question maybe.
Yeah, I was just thinking of other communities that are on this call maybe and thinking about doing something like this. I know we talked a little bit about kind of how you can start. I wonder if you have any insight into who can start it. Does that matter? Are there any recommendations you have that you think would be a good connector for a group of people in the county?
Gosh, I mean, it could be anybody, anybody that has that desire to convene around a collective vision. So I know many counties, many places, towns, counties, regions have coalitions. I can't say that we specifically have a coalition. We've never called ourselves a coalition, but it's definitely a coalescing around this idea of our prenatal to 3 system. And so that encompasses a lot of different things, including early care and education, our healthcare providers, our early intervention, but also our business leaders, our community leaders. I think, again, we've been very clear that this is not for families. This is not for the Chamber of Commerce. This is really about the people doing the work and honoring kind of a safe space where people can come in and be pretty honest about. I mean, that's our hope. And I think we're building that level of trust over time. People can come in and talk about, like, this is a challenge I'm having. How are you addressing this? And it's not in a big open forum that's, like we might do with my favorite thing, the big pieces of chart paper and dots. And like, it's very intentionally informal. And I think a little silly with our camp hats on and the singing that we might do. And, but that kind of has broken down some of the barriers to that level, to the communication. So Katie, I think to your question, it can really come out of anywhere, but being clear about the intention and the audience. One of our school districts I know this year adopted this similar philosophy with their kindergarten roundup. And so instead of having kindergarten roundup at each of the individual schools, they actually held it at the high school, a bigger space. And it was similar to what we're attempting with our collective work, in that it wasn't about your specific neighborhood school. It was really about welcoming all these kindergartners into this particular district. You are going to be this kind of a mascot, this is your mascot, and you are in this district, and we're so excited to welcome you. And at that kindergarten roundup, they had all of the different resources available for the families that would relate to preparing children and families for that formal entry into school. And I think they had some great success adapting the camp collaboration model. I guess because we have a little bit of time and there haven't been, please stop me if you want to talk more about this, but I mentioned our collaboration challenge grants. And I do want to, I feel like we have some time to talk a little bit about that. So we were really fortunate to have received a very generous gift from the Lilly Endowment. And when we were talking with them about the work that we do and how our goal is to incentivize collaboration, we proposed something that we had tried the second year of Camp Collaboration, where we offered up get this, $500 grant for partners to come together around a project. We received 7 applications from, I forget the number of, there was some crossover. Marianne had submitted 2 for Jacob's Ladder with 2 different partners. And the requirement was that it's focused on prenatal to 3, that it could be done in a budget of 500 or supplement a budget of 500. But just let's try this out. Let's see what happens if we bring partners together and give them $500 and let's try it. And I got a call from somebody who had applied, and they said, this is great. We're really excited about the opportunity. And we wonder if there's a possibility, depending on the number that you got, that you could fund all of the projects, because we've all worked really hard and been very vulnerable in putting ourselves out there to develop, to start these emerging partnerships. And we're afraid that if we don't get funded, that work we're going to have to go back to probably behind the starting line now. And so with the generosity of the foundation, the community foundation, we were able to fund all 7 projects for $3,500 total. And oh my gosh, you all know the creativity that we have in our field, our colleagues who are so incredibly resourceful and imaginative. The projects that we got were really amazing, and you can read about them on our blog called Scribbles. they all had to report on what they did. We wanted to make it kind of an easy reporting experience, but we wanted to learn too, like what was really challenging and what really worked well. What tips might you have for others? So when we were working with Lilly Endowment, as they were talking with us about this gift, we said we'd love to scale up our Collaboration Challenge grants. So we received over thanks, Hadassah. We received over $500,000 as part of this larger gift that was allocated towards Collaboration Challenge grants. And so last year we gave out 10. It's competitive, so we had several applicants, and our anonymous external review panel selected 10 of the projects to fund it at the level of $10,000. And again, the resourcefulness, the creativity, the imagination of our partners in Porter County has been astounding. I think we've all been just thrilled with what has emerged from this, not only among the partners that received grants together, but across the system of partnerships. So those 10 projects and how we've brought them together over time and talked about what they're doing and the learnings that come from, all right, here's what we have to do. And again, we're learning as we're building this. And so we're asking for grace all the time. But I think people are embracing this spirit of a startup, of an entrepreneurial experience. So our window closes on Tuesday for the next round of Collaboration Challenge grants. We're going to be handing out between 3 and 4 grants of up to $50,000. And then next summer, that number, we will hand out 1 or 2 in the range of $75,000 to $125,000 for a collaborative project. So again, that has allowed us to identify the collaboration that's happening, but also the needs that partners are identifying. It's also brought in some unlikely, I continue to use that word, but partners into the experience that we would not have expected to hear from. But because our friends and family are out there and they're talking about the work that they do, they're bringing in others that they know might benefit and be able to contribute to our ecosystem. So stay tuned for that. Those announcements get made at Camp Collaboration. So if you want to join us for that or watch our social media for the announcement of our next round. Marianne, if I put you on the spot, you received 2 of those in that pilot project.
Yeah. I mean, that first one was kind of tough to do $500. What do you do that has a really nice impact? But I think one of ours was we partnered with the local hospital's NICU, and we came up with a little flyer that we had printed that helps the parents make that transition from NICU to community. And actually, as we developed it, it was going to be just NICU and Jacob's Ladder, but we ended up including several other community partners that could help follow up with those babies. So it was really wonderful. And I think the other one was we provided OT-PT speech to do training with a local childcare, where we go into the room and we're like the teacher's consultant. So we're not doing screenings on the kids, but the teachers just appreciated that so much because so many times they're stuck and they want to do the right thing for the child, but they don't know what's next that they haven't already tried. So thank you very much, Mary Jane.
Really, it's leaning into the experts that we have across our community and recognizing that we all have a lot to offer to one another. One of those unlikely partnerships that came up. So last year when we kicked off the official Collaboration Challenge grants and we were going to be distributing $10,000 grants, I happened to be at a meeting. We have a lot of meetings in Porter County. I don't know if that's just Porter County or that happens everywhere, but there I was, and I got up and gave my announcement, and somebody said, to me, the person sitting next to me was from our local, an organization that supports individuals in recovery and addiction. And she said to me, "Oh, this is great. This is so nice that you're doing this, but it doesn't really apply to us." And I said, "Actually, I bet it does. Let's have another meeting and talk some more about this." And so they were able to apply and receive $10,000 to work with some of the organizations. And like Marianne suggested, kind of once you get going, you encounter these others who are like, "Oh, we're doing something similar." And so that has been a new partnership and new partnerships that have evolved from the experience. And if you apply for a grant, you also are required to come to Camp Collaboration. So they came to Camp Collaboration for the first time last year to find out that they would win a grant. And again, made all kinds of connections. They're out, their peer counselors are now out in the hospitals. They're working with Nurse Family Partnership to support pregnant people, pregnant expecting families, also parenting families who are affected by substance use disorder. So that's that to me is a really exciting win. So yes, we will share some of those with you, Natalie, and the impact of those grants. Absolutely.
No, we are almost at time here, so I don't know if anybody else has a final question that they want to throw out in there. While you're thinking of that, I was just going to ask, doesn't have to be Camp Collaboration, it can be, or the collaboration grants or that, but just Mary Jane, what's one of the things you're most looking forward to in the next couple of months from the work you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we have just kicked off an evaluation process. We're calling it the Nurturing Project. We started our work with the Nesting Project, which was an interview of pregnant women in their 28th week through the 6th month of their baby. That gave us a lot of information about, the question was, what is it like to have a baby in Porter County? So that was the Nesting Project. We're following that up now with the Nurturing Project, which is about storytelling. Participant evaluation. So how do we share the stories of our families and children in an ethical, participatory way? So our collaboration challenge grantees are receiving some technical assistance and training around how to collect some of this data, the discoverables that we're looking for, these stories. So we're moving past the count data. It's wonderful to know that, 100 children are going to our Books, Blocks, and Balls events, but really what's happening? It's wonderful to know that we have 30 organizations showing up to Camp Collaboration. But to Sarah's question earlier, what happens when they leave, when they walk out the door? So we're really thrilled to have this Nurturing Project, and I can't wait to see where that comes, how that lands.
I love it, and I want to know how it lands too. So keep us
We-
posted. Yes.
We'll be keeping everybody posted. Yes.
Well, I will go ahead and wrap us up. I'd like to give a big thank you to both Hadassah and Mary Jane for sharing your work with us today. I know that we're all leaving here with some ideas or inspiration that we can think on, that could inform how we approach thoughtful collaboration in our own communities that can lead to wonderful impacts for young children. Thank you all for participating, for the questions, for the comments, as we've been able to have the conversation here. Q&As really only work if you've got the Q part of it as well. So happy to have you guys asking questions. As mentioned at the start, we're going to have more of these sessions coming soon with different organizations and individuals all around different practices that help foster learning for young children. In fact, there may be a new notification that popped up on the exchange for you while we've been here together about a Q&A with someone who is with us right now. That's coming up later this month, so check that out. And if you have any suggestions for Q&A guests or things that you want to see, send them my way. We hope to see you guys both on the exchange and at future sessions of Q&A. Thanks, and you guys have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathleen, too.